Thank you, Mr. Secretary. It's a pleasure to see you and appreciate you appearing before this committee. I'm one of many who applauds your recent addresses with regards to China. In these, you have called out their predatory behavior, economic, military, geopolitical, and you note that we have to confront China with our friends and allies if we're going to be successful in diverting them from their course of predation. It's a very welcome assessment, a very clear-eyed evaluation of China's intent and their actions, and a statement of what our mission must be with regards to China. It's also a welcome departure from the President's fawning praise of Xi Jinping and celebration of agreements that China hasn't honored. It's also, in my view, inconsistent with actions that we've taken that have offended our allies at a time we need to be drawing them closer to us. And one, of course, is the steel and aluminum tariffs against our friends and allies that I thought were misplaced. I would have rather focused our entire ammunition on China. The other, of course, is most recently, as Senator Shaheen has just indicated, the withdrawal of troops from Germany, and doing so while expressing an intent to punish Germany for the fact that they spend approximately 1.5% of their GDP on their military as opposed to the 2% NATO target, even though they've indicated that they are on track to get to the 2% number. I have heard from highest levels of the German government that this is seen by them as an insult to Germany. And I can't imagine at a time when we need to be drawing in our friends and allies so that we can collectively confront China, that we want to insult them. My question is this, however, which is what actions will the administration take to bring our allies together in a way that's different than what we've done in the past? I mean, I know that there's always lots of talk going on, and any administration can talk about all the things happening, but what are we going to do that's distinct, that's different, that's dramatic to bring the nations that follow the rule of law together so that we can hopefully reach some kind of a common approach or common strategy in how we're going to deal with China economically, militarily, geopolitically, and then collectively confront them with the intent of dissuading them from pursuing the course that they're on. We obviously don't want to, go to war economically, militarily, or otherwise, but we do want to dissuade them, and I think that can only happen when we are, and as you have pointed out, when we can do that with others. I would note something you said at the Nixon Library. You said, quote, maybe it's time for a new grouping of like-minded nations, a new alliance of democracies. And I think that's a good idea, but I'm interested in what actions of a new and dramatic nature are you considering or are you willing to take in order to accomplish the objective you described?
Senator, it is absolutely the case that to confront the Chinese Communist Party is going to take a global effort. That's absolutely true. It's why I talked about this idea, perhaps, of a new alliance of democracies. What shape that would take, there's lots of discussion about. Had many conversations with friends in the region. Step one, Senator, to be honest with you, has been to awaken the world to this threat. For an awful long time, not just the United States, but the whole world saw that there were lucrative opportunities in China, and that was basically foreign policy. Sell as much as you can, outsource jobs, build supply chains. And so I spent my first year and change traveling the world trying to raise awareness of the threat. So that, I think that's new and different. You may say it's not enough, but it wasn't happening before. And I went through the list of things that have begun to turn the tide. I will say there are still nations who understand this threat but don't feel like they are empowered, that they're in a position where they can withstand the threats that come from the Chinese Communist Party. So we are working, our diplomats, trying to build out a set of relationships. And whether that's a part of a formal organization or not, I'm not sure I know the answer to yet, but to convince them that America is prepared to lead in pushing back against the Chinese Communist Party. And when they do, we will be there to support them. And so I could list you, we have some 26 lines of effort at the State Department, probably an equal amount at the Department of Defense, all aimed centrally at building out this set of alliances, both in Southeast Asia and more broadly with our Five Eyes partners and with the Quad, to build out a set of commitments that can robustly communicate to the Chinese Communist Party that enough, and you have to behave on the global stage. If you want to behave on the global stage, you've got to do it under a set of rules that has created so much prosperity around the world. And that may be unsatisfying, Senator Romney, but it's still a real work in progress to get everyone fully aligned. I mentioned the EU dialogue, very important. Foreign Minister Borrell, High Representative Borrell, asked me if we would have a dialogue with them on China. That took a lot of effort to get 27 EU nations to say, yes, this is something we've got to confront, to identify as a systemic rival. There's lots of spade work that goes into what seems pretty simple, I suppose.
I think it's the most important work that we will be doing as a country and as an administration as we face this challenge. Just a parenthetical comment that comes to mind as you're speaking, and that relates to a discussion that was held earlier with regards to tech companies that Senator Johnson raised. I know there's great interest, sometimes politically, to go after some of the big tech companies, Google, Amazon, and so forth, and Facebook, and berate them for their market power. And if they violate American antitrust laws, why, that's totally appropriate. But I would note that we're in a global competition, and China has been successful in driving a lot of Western companies out of business. They've not been successful in driving companies like these out of business. These are thriving and succeeding. And the last thing we ought to be doing is trying to knock down businesses in the United States that are succeeding on a global stage. So we need to be careful not to flex our muscle to berate those entities that are successful and are beating China. I mean, Alibaba would like to replace Amazon. TikTok would like to replace Instagram. So it's just an area of concern, and I hope that you're able to point these things out to other members of the administration who care deeply about that. Finally, were you surprised by the fact that, 57 countries supported China, 53 countries supported China's crackdown on Hong Kong? Did that shock you as it did me?
I was surprised and dismayed.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.